So yeah, hello everyone. I am Joe Robbins, a community evangelist, which is a ridiculous job title. But basically, I work for Unity. I've been with Unity for about 7 years now. Yeah, 7 years. Wow. And when I joined Unity, it was around 25 or so people. And it was a small little office in Copenhagen. And I actually lived upstairs and then worked downstairs. Not for long. That was a little bit, the work-life balance wasn't great. But yeah, so I basically travel around and talk about Unity, introduce people to the tools, that kind of thing. Do a bit of training with people that are interested in maybe using Unity, showing them what it's about and all that kind of thing. But yeah, so I've worn many different hats during my time at Unity as well. So I've been working on the demos for the demo team and working in technical support and all kinds of stuff really. So yeah, the community evangelist title doesn't really cover exactly what it is that I do. But yeah, that's me with a DK1, and the more eagle-eyed people in the audience will notice that there's also a track IR head tracking system. So I was doing like a hybrid positional tracking system before it was implemented in the DK1. It looks so old now. But yeah, so just to kind of start off on the ground level, I'll just talk a little bit about what Unity is, at least from a basic perspective. In terms of everyone here, how many people use Unity? Okay. How many people have no idea what Unity is? Okay. Cool. So I'll keep this brief then. So yeah, this is kind of what we do. I'm sure you're all familiar. So obviously, multi-platform development is one of our key kind of tenets, really, one of our key important parts of Unity. And it has been pretty much since the iPhone came along, really, and really changed the direction that Unity was going in. And yeah, it's interesting to see those parallels with VR and the early iPhone stuff. It feels quite similar in a lot of ways. And then obviously rapid iteration. It's all about being able to develop quickly and fail quickly as well. Find out what works and what doesn't. Fail fast, that's what they say. It sounds quite sad, really. Fail quickly. Right? But I suppose it means that if you're failing, you can then learn from those things. So yeah, rapid iteration, super important. And finally, democratization, which is definitely super relevant with virtual reality, I feel. But yeah, I'll get on to a bit of that. So yeah, that was, I'm not sure whether this is up to date. It definitely doesn't include the VR stuff, that comes later, but that's a selection of some of the platforms, which is pretty impressive considering it's all just one engine, at least I feel. So yeah, pretty much can deploy to wherever you want to. In terms of the rapid iteration, obviously it's an intuitive editor, hopefully, that's easy to use and easy to pick up and start using. I personally came to Unity back when it was in pre-iPhone days. There was only a Mac editor available at the time. So yeah, being from the Windows side of things, I didn't really know what I was doing initially. But yeah, I was more of a 3D graphics artist, so coming to Unity even all the way back then, I was amazed at how easy it was to just drag my assets in. So yeah, at that point I was kind of converted because I didn't need a programmer. Yeah, then I kind of had to become a little bit of one myself. Yeah, and one of the key things early on with Unity was the fact that it became pretty much the weapon of choice for game jams and hackathons, and that's something that I personally feel I was championing quite a lot internally at Unity as well in the early days, because yeah, game jams are awesome, and it's a great opportunity to test out some concepts and try things out, and yeah, that's definitely driven a lot of really awesome development, I feel. Yeah. And then in terms of democratization, there's obviously the pricing model, or lack of price, I suppose, with the personal edition. Obviously making Unity free just over a year ago was a big step. but it seems to have been working pretty well. Yeah, it's super crazy to see this transition and how much of an impact it's had on the industry as a whole, really. Because now anyone can develop stuff, so much so that other people are doing the same things as us with making things free. So it's definitely working. And I think this is probably inaccurate now. This is quite I grabbed this stat a while ago. So yeah, the 1.3 million plus X. I don't know what X is, but yeah, that's quite a significant amount of people that are just actively developing with Unity every month. And that's really a key element of the whole picture. The democratization and making it so that anybody can develop content is obviously incredibly important. But more important than that is the fact that all of those people are now able to do it, can also share and learn from each other. So yeah, the community aspect of Unity is incredibly important. Yeah, that's actually one of the most important things, really, I'd say. Okay, so moving on from a little bit of the philosophy. In terms of VR, we were kind of convinced that it was going to be super awesome from the beginning. And I think the way in which Oculus came to be and became the entity that it is, through the route of crowdfunding and relatively open development, was very much in sync with the way that we were doing things with democratization. And yeah, so we definitely were very interested from the early days. So yeah, there was the Oculus Indiecade VR Jam, one of the early jams that I was involved in helping to set up and curate, which was super cool to see what was happening. And then this is something that's continued on. And I think this is fundamentally one of the differences with VR versus, I guess, traditional development on a new hardware platform, like one of the, I don't know, the PlayStation or Xbox, slightly earlier models of game development. Mainly because of the fact that now, as opposed to having these huge walls of entry and, well, if you want to develop for our platform, you obviously have to know the people, and you obviously have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you've got to have made 1 million games before and all that kind of thing. And this really broke down the barriers in terms of experimentation and allowing anybody that has a computer, I guess, to download Unity and get hold of a development kit and start working on stuff really quickly and early. So I think it's testament to that there's been as many awesome projects at launch for the VR that's coming now. So it's pretty cool. So this is a game from that VR Jam. I'll just let it play. It kind of speaks for itself in some ways. Do we have audio on this? There we go. The audio is very important. So yeah, you're an elephant called Dumpy. With a slightly sinister soundtrack as well. So yeah, that was one of the entries in the first Oculus VR Jam, and I had the privilege of writing a follow-up blog post on the Unity blog about the first VR Jam, which basically involved downloading all of the Unity projects that had been produced over the course of the Jam and trying them out. And that was the Dumpy one was one that I thoroughly enjoyed, flying around as an elephant, and it was hilarious. This one, on the other hand, I lasted perhaps 2 minutes playing this before I just couldn't any longer. It's the most horrifying thing known to man. So this is Dread Halls, and the idea is you have this map that you can look at, and I believe it's a procedurally generated maze, and you have to escape. And yeah, it's absolutely horrifying. Let me skip to a... So it was around that point when I decided, no, I don't like this. I mean, I'm not much of a horror fan myself. I'm sure this is like right up a lot of people's like alleys, but this is totally not my cup of tea whatsoever. Yeah, far too immersive and far too scary. But yeah, this one is one that I found interesting. It's a pretty cool concept by a team in Copenhagen, the Virtual Internet Hacker. This was a cool project which was inspired by all of the greatest 80s hacker movies and 90s hacker movies. And you type in the name of a website, in this case Hollywood.com, and then you hack into the internet by typing code. And then depending on how much you type and when you press space, you then move forward. So it's kind of like a maze game, but it's also, all of the textures are populated from Hollywood.com. So it's pretty interesting. So whatever website you hack into, all of the images are being displayed. So it's very, yeah, very hilarious. But that was this was really the most important thing really with early VR development. It's the fact that anybody could make anything. And this quote became really, I think, important. Like it made a lot of sense with William Gibson. I don't know whether it was specifically talking about Burning Chrome or whether it was a quote within Burning Chrome, but the concept that the street, in a very cyberpunk kind of way, finds its own use for things. I think that is very much relevant with virtual reality and the kind of projects that we're seeing, at least in the game space. The ones that are successful are definitely ones that have come out of very strange places and you know, filling niches that we never knew needed to be filled, but they're there. So it's yeah, it's super awesome. And as a result, we've been able to, you know, have all of these crazy games being developed in all different genres. In terms of our multi-platform things, so obviously we're supporting as many different virtual reality platforms as possible. That's a really big thing. And back at GDC, we announced that we're working with Valve for native support. So traditionally, we had a plugin that was available on the asset store so that you could download everything you needed to develop for Vive. But now so the Vive, at the moment, it's in beta, the native support for Vive. Although currently, as I'm aware of it, you do need still the plugin for the controllers currently. But yeah, so that's coming on nicely. And this is something that we're obviously continuing to do, making VR development as easily as possible for as many people as possible, really. And there's a number of different improvements and optimizations that we've gone through specifically for VR. So like the shared shadows and shared camera and occlusion culling, which was obviously these early steps towards improving optimization specifically for VR. In addition to that as well, Valve announced at this was at the Vision Summit actually, that they will be writing a complete render pipeline for Unity to integrate in, specifically from those guys. So that's going to be interesting to see how that does. And obviously, it's all about optimization. So yeah, in terms of rapid iteration and VR, it's quite simple to do VR in Unity. It's just a little checkbox, or if you're more of a programmer, you can change a bool. But yeah, that's been one of the key things, is to make it as approachable and easy as possible. And yeah, obviously there's things with like input, that kind of thing. But overall, it's super awesome that there's just a checkbox to turn on virtual reality. I find that really awesome. Yeah, super cool. And obviously, yeah, that allows you to experiment. And as I said earlier, fail fast, and which is why we've seen so many crazy, awesome prototypes like the nightmare-inducing dread halls or the crazy elephant simulator. But yeah. So in terms of democratization of VR, there's been a lot of stuff that's come up from like kind of small indie developers working on level 0, which is a super awesome kind of Descent clone, if anyone played Descent back in the day. EVR, this is actually, most people will know it as Eve Valkyrie, which is actually an Unreal project. But the original prototype was developed in Unity. So, yeah, it's a shame they decided to not use Unity in the end, but it's fine. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Unity, so that's cool. Job Simulator, super awesome. I'm sure everyone has probably seen something about Job Simulator so far. I just love the concept that jobs are no longer necessary, so they're just simulated. I just think it's such a cool idea. And the good thing about that is it's also a good illustration of the kind of path that a lot of Unity developers have gone down. So Alchemy Labs, famously the developers of Snuggle Truck on the iOS, which is a game where you travel along in a truck with lots of cuddly toys in the back. However, it was not always this way, and it was a little bit less politically correct. The original version was known as Smuggle Truck, and you were smuggling people across the border in America. So, yeah, from smuggle to snuggle to Job Simulator, I think. But yeah, a cool bunch of people, and they've done some great work on VR interaction and interacting with stuff in VR, and they've really kind of experimented quite a lot. And they've got some definitely awesome lessons to learn, those guys. Guys like Zero Light working on completely non-game applications with their car configurating tools and really awesome high-end visuals there. So there's a huge like range of different people as well. CoatSync, another Northeast UK developer, doing some awesome stuff with things like Esper, and Esper 2, and the Gang Beasts VR, which is super cool. But beyond that, there's the whole thing of launch titles, which is kind of overwhelming in a way, at least to me. So this is Unity projects built in the Oculus Rift launch titles. Oh, and there's some more as well. So quite a few. There's probably some missing from that as well. So I do apologize if anyone's worked on a project as a launch title and it's not listed there. If that happens to be the case, let me know, because we'll need to update the Made with Unity blog. But yeah, huge numbers. And then obviously with the HTC Vive, again, all of these. And those as well, the early access ones. So yeah, ludicrous numbers of launch titles that are available. And as I was saying earlier, I feel it's definitely down to the kind of approach of democratization and allowing as many people as possible to make content, because then obviously the stuff that's awesome rises to the top. And it turns out that there's a lot of stuff that's awesome, way more than there would be if you'd just gone and picked a few safe bets as a hardware manufacturer. So yeah, I think it might be a bit off that. I'm not sure whether it's exactly accurate, but I think, yeah, 28 of the 52 Oculus Rift titles were built in Unity, and 47 if you include the 11 early access ones made in the Vive. So, I mean, that kind of beats the PlayStation 2 total launch titles, I think, and I think the PlayStation 3 as well. I think that was maybe about 15 in the EU. So, yeah, ultimately it gives the consumer more options and is more likely to fill niches like if you wanted to play tennis with yourself, you can do that with selfie tennis. Yeah, so there's just a much wider, broader range of things available to people, which is only a good thing, I'm sure. What am I doing for time? Okay. So I'll talk very briefly about the Unity's VR future stuff. Now, I love that film. It's so bad it's good. He's wearing a Thompson iPhone in this as well, which was a strange prediction of the future names of technology, but not quite accurate with the manufacturers of them. Awesome scene. So yeah, there's a number of things we're working on. We announced recently the NVIDIA VRWorks integration, so that's obviously a big boon for people working on PC hardware platforms. And as mentioned earlier, the native HTC Vive, which is in beta. But obviously the plan continues to be just supporting all of the virtual realities. So yeah, that will continue to be the goal. So any new hardware that happens to be around the corner, you can be sure that Unity will be investigating as soon as possible. Obviously, we're going to continue working on the API, improving everything, making more native integrations as they come along. And also as well, this was at the GDC keynote, I believe. We showed a demo of some of our stuff that we're playing around with exploring virtual reality development. So being able to craft your stuff within Unity, but also within virtual reality. So I think that's definitely going to be a really interesting direction that content authoring goes in, especially with things like Tilt Brush. I think people are going to be developing all of their 3D assets in the virtual world soon, which is kind of cool. Sculpting, it's like going back to the beginning, full circle. It's cool. Yeah, so that's definitely going to be a really interesting one, and there's more that we're working on in that direction. So certainly keep your eyes on the roadmap for those kind of things. And with regards to the democratization side of things, we're basically continuing on with our plan to make the best software for everyone, and the hardware is up to everybody else, really. Although, that being said, with the introduction of things like Unity Analytics and that kind of thing, we'll be using all of our reach with the Unity Analytics system and all of the Unity projects that are out there that have got this integrated, and we'll be able to report back to you, which is really awesome, about the state of hardware across the globe with the analytics system, which is already proving to be really useful with regards to mobile development. So being able to know how many percentages of people a change is going to affect, or whether or not you're spending valuable development time working on fixes for a platform that 0.03% of people actually use. Really important, valuable information. And obviously, with it being across the globe as well, you get a really interesting picture of who's using what tech and where. So yeah, that's super cool. A few things about further reading. So the Vision Summit, which was the event we hosted in Los Angeles. God, when was that? It was a few months ago? No, February. It's only, yeah. I know, it's mad, isn't it? Game development. So yeah, the Vision Summit, that's all up on YouTube now. So all of the sessions from the Vision Summit are up there. You can even see the awkward high five that happened. I won't tell you any more about that. You'll have to go and see it for yourself. But that was awesome. And yeah, there's some great stuff there as well. Some great insight into the direction we're going. Some great talks by some of the developers that have been working on cool stuff. Specifically, the Alchemy Labs guys, they did a really cool talk about interface and interaction and the lessons that they learned, which I'd highly recommend. And there's also Unite Europe coming up very soon. Too soon. It's not long at all. And that's over in Amsterdam. So if anyone's interested in hanging out with a lot of Unity folks, for whatever reason, this is one of the best places to do it. We're currently in the process of curating the talks for that, and it's shaping up to be a really cool one. I think last year was one of my favourite Unites ever, and I've been to at least 7. But yeah, it was a really good one, and I'd highly recommend making it over if you can. And with that, I will just run a quick little summary of some of the video that was over at the Vision Summit. Okay, so thanks. Maybe we've got some time for questions? No? Okay.